Welcome everybody to CISO Platform. CISO Platform is the world's first online social network completely dedicated to senior security officers. At CISO Platform, our vision is to create the highest quality information and a platform for collaboration. Today we have with us Devesh Bhatt, who is an information security researcher and consultant. He has managed and executed multiple projects involving application network penetration tests, vulnerability assessments, and design review. He has presented his work at conferences like RSA, Confidence, RootCon, etc. He is listed in the Hall of Fame of many companies including Google, Facebook, Apple, PayPal, etc. You can post your questions in the chat. We will have the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Over to you, Devesh. Devesh?
Yeah, thanks, Preetha. So thank you very much for the introduction. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking out time to join this webinar on exploiting the application logics. So in next 1 hour or so, I'll be taking you through different aspects of logical vulnerabilities and application. And some of the test cases that I have found in the major applications like Google, PayPal, etc. And then towards the end, we'll look how we can mitigate these vulnerabilities. So first of all, let me take you through the current posture of security in the online world in terms of web applications. So if you see that 99% of applications have at least one vulnerability, and more than half of the breaches that happen in the online world are through applications. So you can actually make out the fact that how critical is it to secure your applications, because those are one of the entry doors to your organization. And if you see, this is just the 10% of data that we are talking about, because 90% of hacking incidents are not actually reported because of the media fear or the loss of company's reputation, or whatever reason the company might think that they will be defamed. And the most important of all is the business logic vulnerabilities, which are the logical attacks that we are going to discuss in our today's webinar, are the most neglected vulnerabilities in the online world. So let us see what exactly are these vulnerabilities and how we can mitigate these vulnerabilities in our application. But before that, let me ask you this question: how many of you actually know this guy? I know I cannot hear you, but you can just post your answers and let me know if you know this guy. Okay, so his name is Matt Onen. He used to be a leading journalist with the Wired, and he came into fame because of his epic hacking that happened in 2010. And the reason was obviously some of the chaining attacks of the logical flaws in the leading online companies. So we'll see how exactly it happened. So it all started with this small little bird we know. It's popularly known as Twitter handle. So his Twitter handle was @Matt, so which was very interesting for one of the leading hacker group in Russia. So they wanted to get hold of that Twitter handle. So in order to hack that, they came to know that his Twitter handle was linked to his Gmail. And then when the hackers reached to reset the password of his Gmail, it went on to a email address that ends with .me.com. So that means in order to hack his Twitter handle, they wanted to hack his Gmail account, and in order to hack his Gmail account, they will now have to hack his Apple account, which was kind of chaining attack from one Twitter to now they have reached to Apple's account. Apple at that point in time used to have a very peculiar vulnerability. For example, if you know the email address of the person, the billing address, and the last 4 digits of his credit card number, you will be able to request the customer support to issue a temporary password. So email address was known to the hackers. Billing address they could retrieve from the registrar information of the website hosted on his name. The typical part was the last 4 digits of the credit card number, and this is very interesting. So what hackers actually did, they hacked into other major company, which was Amazon.com, in order to get hold of his last 4 digits of the credit card number. And this is how they proceed. Amazon, at that point in time, if you have the name of the account, associated email address, or the billing address, all of which were known to the hackers, you can actually call Amazon's customer support and you can add a credit card number to an existing account. So that is what exactly the hackers did. They added a bogus credit card number to his Amazon.com account. And later, the same hackers called the customer support again, saying that they have lost access to their account and they want access to the victim's account. And in order to issue access to the victim's account or add another email address, Amazon wanted last 4 digits of the credit card, name, and the address. Unfortunately, last 4 digits of the credit card in this case was known to hackers because this is the credit card which hackers have already entered into the system. And boom, they could add a new email address to victim's account. And from there on, they can send the reset password link to this particular email address which they have access to and can see all the information of the credit card and hence can hack Apple and hence can hack his Gmail account and eventually can hack his Twitter handle. So as you could see here, there is no single vulnerability in one of the platforms, but one of the things that Apple considers very critical to hide is something which is not very critical to Amazon.com. So this is a complete example of logical flaws. So this is something which we have seen in multiple applications, but typically it can be present in a single infrastructure. So we'll see how. So why are logical vulnerabilities? So why are logical vulnerabilities present in our code first of all? So logical vulnerabilities are nothing but design flaws. So during a SDLC process, that is Secure Development Lifecycle process, the first step that is being conducted is the design review. So you sit with your architect and decide based on what all things you should be implementing in this particular application for it to be secure. So it's basically like closing all the or locking all the entry points to your house when you are designing a house for yourself. And moreover, the most important fact is that automation does not help. So a lot of people rely on a lot of source scanners, and then those tools are very good, but unfortunately, those tools does not help in identifying logical vulnerabilities. And as we will see the examples going forward, we'll realize that logical vulnerabilities actually require manual intervention. Okay, so a lot has been talked about logical vulnerabilities in these slides so far. So most of you might be wondering what are exactly the logical vulnerabilities, right? So let me give you a small example here. So as humans, we can obviously identify, even if we don't have coding knowledge, everyone in this webinar can actually identify what exactly is going to happen as soon as someone is going to hit this particular URL. So there is an application called example, and there is a page called order.asp. And what we are doing, we are trying to purchase an item with number 50 with a price of 300, right? So this is a simple GET request. So what as humans, we obviously think is that, and obviously as Indians, we try and bargain on everything. So first thing that will come to our mind is to reduce the price, right? So why to buy item 50 at 300 rupees instead of let's buy it at 100 rupees or maybe free of cost. So this is something obviously that is required in order to test the logical vulnerabilities. So we'll see what exactly are the different types of logical vulnerabilities, or what are the implications of logical vulnerabilities. So using logical vulnerabilities, one can actually hijack other user accounts. And this can be done in multiple ways. So first is basically guessing the security answers of security questions during reset password. And a lot of applications have faced this particular attack in recent times, wherein people usually set easy to guess security answers to their security questions. The flaw is basically in the application because they allow users to set weak answers. And you would have seen a lot of lists getting published for weak password, easy to guess passwords. So this is again a configuration level issue wherein attackers can think or guess or brute force easy to guess passwords. The other important thing is cross-site request forgery. And cross-site request forgery is an attack which we'll be discussing in detail in our session that is going to happen in June. Cross-site request forgery is something wherein an attacker performs certain action on behalf of victim without victim actually getting notice of it, right? So if there is a password reset or a password change functionality which does not ask for old password, then an attacker can basically change victim's password by sending him a direct link to that. And we have already seen about weak password reset features in the application, like whenever you try and reset the password of your application, the application sends a link to your email. Sometimes what we have seen that particular link does not expire after a fixed interval of time, and anyone having access to your emails can reset your password. And in most of the other applications, the application actually sends the password in clear text, which is even worse than sending a link. So anyone having access to your emails can actually bypass your authentication by unauthorized access. And moreover, these password reset links usually have a very unique token that is identified as key. These particular keys sometimes are reusable and can be used by an attacker to reset victim's password. So these are some of the ways by which one can hijack other user accounts. The second one is very interesting, and it typically applies to the e-commerce application or the internet banking application, wherein one can actually increase their bank balance. Interesting, right? And one can actually buy online for free. And this is something that we have seen in multiple e-commerce applications. And I'll give you two particular case studies in this. One is try transferring negative amount from account to account. So what application will think, if the application does not have proper validations at the server side, it will actually detect the negative amount from the from account. So that means the from account gets credited with the same amount as he is trying to transfer. So this is what we have seen in internet banking application. And similarly, if you see in an e-commerce application, what happens is that the parent application, e-commerce application, talks to your payment gateway using a service call. So whenever you do transaction on your e-commerce application, there is a service call that happens to payment gateway that tells the payment gateway, okay, the customer XYZ has purchased this particular product for say 50 rupees, and then the payment gateway sends the application, which is the e-commerce application in this case, an API callback. This API callback contains a unique token. So sometimes what we have seen is that this token does not expire. So this token is the value that tells the application that transaction has been done. Please issue the product to the user. So attacker can actually use this API callback multiple times and can purchase products online for free. So this is the other example of logical vulnerabilities. The most typical one is the privilege escalation. Privilege escalation is something wherein a low privileged user can act as a high privileged user. For example, there are users in an application which have read-only access, and there are other users in an application which has edit or modify privileges. Typical example would be your leave management system in your organization, wherein the employee submits his request for leave and then his manager approves it. Imagine if you are able to submit your leaves by yourself and then approve it by yourself. So that would be wonderful, right? Apart from that, imagine another example wherein you submit your expense report to your manager and it goes to finance. So there are two levels of approvals that is required here. So what if the submitter only approves his request and then get it approved by finance as well without finance actually getting notice of it? So this can be achieved by simple parameter manipulation, and later in the slides we will have a lot of examples showing these. Okay, so now let's move on to the most important and interesting section, which is the case studies. So we'll see multiple types of logical vulnerabilities that have come across, and these are very simple ones. After you actually see these, you'll realize that it just does not require any greater deals of knowledge of security testing tools. Just few proxies are required, like Burpsuit or Paros. So the case one is one of the applications that I was testing recently. It is a Japanese application, and the reason I test this application is because I do a lot of independent research on applications and submit vulnerabilities to different organizations. And this Japanese application was like a typical LinkedIn application wherein you can apply for jobs, make contacts, and then send messages to different users. So as you could see in this particular screen, I landed upon this page which has the draft messages of the users, right? So in the address bar, you could see message ID is equals to 8. So after seeing this particular parameter in the URL, obviously I got interested and thought that what if I change it to like 1, 2, 3 or some of the other valid values. And luckily, to my surprise, when I changed it to message ID equals to 1, I could see messages of other users. I mean, I could see messages, draft messages of other users of the application, which is like very critical. And since I do not understand Japanese, I had to take help from Google in order to translate this. And this is some of one of the most interesting messages that I came across. And when I translated it in Google, this is how it reads. Yeah, so obviously this guy would not have got this job, but it was very interesting vulnerability for me. So as you have seen that this is just a simple parameter manipulation, but the impact is huge. And the reason that we discussed in the previous slide that automated scanners does not have this particular understanding to catch such vulnerabilities. Let's move on to another case study, which is I got again recently. It's basically unsubscribing any user from his alerts, or if you subscribe to a particular application, anyone can unsubscribe you from that. So this particular and got to this URL by using Google Operator. So I hope most of you are aware of Google Operator. Google Operator is nothing but some of the tools that you use in order to better search in Google. Say, for example, if you want to search the word unsubscribe in the URL, what you have to do is basically put site:/xyz.com. xyz.com is an example site here. So say for example, if you want to search on any particular website, you can name that website, and then you can search for words like in URL unsubscribe. So this will list down all the URLs in the domain xyz.com that would have the word unsubscribe in the URL. So I landed up on this page by using this particular technique, and this was the unsubscribe page. And by putting certain values in the email parameter, as you could see in the email in the URL, there is a parameter that goes email. I could put abc@xyz.com or any other valid email address, and I could unsubscribe that particular user. So what is the vulnerability here? So vulnerability is basically developer is passing critical parameter as part of GET request. And what I have done is basically gotten all the cached GET request from the Google, which is the greatest proxy, right? So GET requests are subject to getting cached in proxies, and basically use that functionality to abuse the application. So this is as simple as that. The third one is one of my I would say first bug, which is like very simple, and I was surprised to get it on Google. So and after you will see this, you'll also be surprised to see how simple was that. So one fine evening when I was doing my bug bounty stuff, I thought of looking at the list of mergers and acquisitions of Google, and I landed upon this application which was invitemedia.com. So invitemedia.com was one of the acquisitions of Google, and obviously as I proceed further, I used Google operators to search for subdomains of invitemedia.com. So this is how I did. I did site:/invitemedia.com -www. So that listed and you can do it yourself in Google. So if you type this, you'll be listed with all the subdomains of invitemedia.com apart from www.invitemedia.com, because I knew that this is the main site, and they would have taken a lot of care in implementing security measures in that. So that is how I proceed, like identifying the weakest link. I landed upon this page. After doing this, I landed upon this page, dashboard.invitemedia.com/login, and it was the login page for the bid manager login of this particular application. So obviously, as an hacker, I wanted to bypass the login, and for like 30 to 45 minutes, I tried doing that. I thought of using SQL injection. I thought of doing parameter manipulation, and then SQL injection did not work because there was proper input validation and parameterized queries were there as expected from Google. And when I was about to give up, I thought of doing the most silliest, I would say, or the most easiest thing that anyone can think of. I tried using username as admin and password as admin, and here you go. Boom. I was logged in as the administrator of that particular dashboard, right? So I could see all the client data, and I could manipulate. I could write press release from this particular application. So this is like very critical. But the techniques that I used, you would say that it is very easy. So these are some of the things that companies like Google can also miss out, and this is something which how much soever you will test your application, you will not get such vulnerabilities until and unless you take proper care during the design phase of the application, right? You implement proper password policies so that there are no easy to guess and default passwords. So so this is that. So this is my first, I would say, Hall of Fame. And let's move on to other case study, which is from PayPal. So PayPal, as you know, that a lot of people have a lot of confidential and critical data in PayPal, and PayPal also have a lot of PII information like their personal email IDs, first name, last name, which is very critical from compliance perspective. So again here I used Google hacking techniques. So this is something which I use in order to get to a point wherein I can start my hacking. So I used site:secure.paypal.com in url.com. So as you can see now, it listed down all the pages which has .com in the URL inside secure.paypal.com. So as in the screenshot, you could see all the email addresses of the users which are using secure.paypal.com, right? So those were being sent as part of URL parameters in the GET request. And this is one of the easiest mistakes that a developer would do, like passing sensitive information as part of your GET request. What could have been implemented is basically POST request, wherein the critical parameters are passed as part of POST request. So typically that is the main difference between a GET and a POST, is that GET requests are more considered less secure than POST requests. But obviously we'll see what measures we can implement in the next couple of slides. So these are some of the interesting and like easy to find vulnerabilities that are there and that are considered logical, because only humans can find it. Humans have that intelligence to find these vulnerabilities. So let's move on to the next section, which is the countermeasure, and we'll see what we could have done, or what could these companies have done in order to prevent such vulnerabilities from happening. The first one is strong authentication and authorization of transaction. So authentication is nothing but you allow someone inside or you don't allow someone inside. So it's like the basic entry door. And authorization is once you are inside, what all objects or what all things you are allowed to access. So these are two very important terms when you are designing your application. So as you would have seen in the Japanese application, there was authentication. There was authentication that was implemented. Users were allowed to provide username and password in order to access the draft message section, right? But anyone can manipulate the parameters to access everyone else's message. So that was the authorization that was missing. The second one is the secure password reset and user ID reminder processes. As we discussed in the logical vulnerability section, there are multiple cases using which an attacker can actually get hold of your passwords. The most critical one is the reset password page, wherein if the application is sending password in clear text, or application is sending a reset password link to your email address which is not expiring, or the tokens that are being used in order to construct that reset password link are not random enough or are not expiring after a defined interval of time, then adversary can basically get hold of that particular link or password and can exploit your account. The third important thing is the secure session management, right? So whenever an application talks to a web server, there are multiple users that actually interact at the same time. So web server keeps track of individual session using a cookie that is being generated at the server side and is being sent to the user browser. So that session cookie is as good as one's password. So as a developer or as an architect of an application, it's our duty to actually secure that particular cookie. And there are multiple ways by which an attacker can steal that session cookie. If there are not proper directives that are being used with the session cookie, like HTTP only or secure directive, then these cookies can be compromised using other attacks like cross-site scripting. And there is something known as session fixation, right? If anyone get hold of your cookie before login and your cookie is not changing after login, then he can basically perform an attack that is known as session fixation. Like an attacker can fix the victim to a particular session. So session implementation is very important in order to get rid of logical vulnerabilities. The other thing is to implement logging and alerts of business transaction and events. You would have seen that there are cases, or in most of the companies which deals with financial data, there are logging and alerts for all the critical transactions, like a privileged user logging into a database or an application. All these alerts are being tracked. But if there are critical features in your application and you want to keep track of what's happening without the user's knowledge, it's always considered a best practice to keep the logging and alerts of business transactions on. So these are some of the recommendations for logical vulnerabilities. So in the end, I would like to conclude with the fact that understanding business risk plus designing the processes to mitigate risk at the design level itself during the SDLC lifecycle can help you mitigate all the logical vulnerabilities.
Thanks, Devesh. Thanks, Devesh. It was a very interesting session. We got to know that it's always not the top 10 or the XSS vulnerabilities that are attacking us. So you just found out the admin and password that actually gave you access. That's kind of interesting. Hello? Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Devesh, I can hear you. I was confused if you could hear me.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions here?
Yes, Devesh.
Yeah,
there are a
few
few questions.
Any questions?
Yes, Devesh. There are a few questions from the audience side. The first one would be, what do you suggest in terms of the top level approach of security architecture to handle business logic flaws? Should I pardon?
Okay. That's a very good. Yeah, I can hear you. So the question is, what can be implemented at the top architecture level in order to get rid of logical vulnerabilities, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and I think we discussed part of it during the webinar.
Yes.
Wherein the idea is to make left shift as far as possible. When I say left shift, it's basically like start as early as possible in your development lifecycle, right? So whenever you do inception of your new project, say for example you are about to launch a new architecture or a new application, the idea is to sit down with your architect and decide on the entry points of that applications. Or say for example, if you want to implement password reset feature in the application, then you may want to discuss the pros and cons. And for that matter, there is a term that is used that is known as threat modeling, right? So there are a lot of tools in the market that can help you do that. And you can do a flow body diagram of your architecture and identify different risks at different entry points, and slowly you can start mitigating those before the application moves to your development phase.
Okay, great. And we also have another question, that is, could you suggest a few tools so that apart from the security architecture, the CISO is able to handle the risks or is able to understand the things are aligned, such as even the common mistakes that take place, that does not come into place?
Okay. Okay. So from CISO's perspective, I think it's better to implement a proper risk management program, and there are tools like from RSA. There is a beautiful tool, Archer, which helps you do a lot of application risk management. So you can develop an application inside Archer that will help you track different applications and see what kind of risks cycles they are into. Then you can even go into the details of blocking a particular release if the number of bugs are exceeding your expectations. So from CISO's perspective, I think good governance in terms of application risk management would be the better term. But obviously testing the application frequently, not just the automated tools. As I mentioned earlier, right? So there is no unique tool that is there as of now.
Right.
Test your logical vulnerabilities in the application. So I need to test it manually as much as you can, and then slowly learn from the mistakes and then implement those mistakes or the learning in the forthcoming applications.
Okay, so basically right now the present scenario requires manual interaction to a big deal, and probably logging of the manual interaction will help you in the further corrections. Okay, thank you, Devesh. I guess if we have further questions, we'll take it over.
Sure, Pitan. Sure. So thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for your time.
So most of you might be knowing that we are having the CISO Platform Decision Summit along with the 5th Top 100 CISO Awards on June 4th, 5th in Delhi. Decision Summit is aimed at helping senior security executives take better decisions. The format will be mostly checklists, metrics, security tools, etc. We will discuss on vendor evaluation and benchmarking frameworks in various domains like DLP, strong authentication, SIEM, application security, etc. And also on security management tools and frameworks, professional development checklists and frameworks, and metrics and dashboards. So please block your dates and your seats as seats are limited. Thank you everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar.